Trump triumphed with the EU trade deal. If the deal is as good as the early reports say it is between the USA and EU, it will be a clear win for Trump and all Americans. I expect China will do a real deal soon or face being left out entirely. Honestly, sounded like a boondoggle with Trump doing a 5-day trip to Scotland to salute the opening of one of his new golf courses. Then the news was that there would be a meeting of the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. Then the meeting was being held and a deal announced very quickly. That raised my suspicions. I believe the whole thing was a setup and the deal was done before Trump headed to Scotland. Part of the deal is that EU had to know that the gig was up. Hey, the US bailed out Europe twice in 2 world wars. Then the Marshall Plan, which rebuilt Europe, and following that, America was played as patsies for 70 years with major European countries blocking US products and selling their products in the US for high prices, but not paying any meaningful tariffs. A piece that makes a lot of sense with the likely economic counterattack on Russia due to the Ukraine attacks continuing. EU is to buy a bunch of US energy resources. This is a win-win-win, speaking as someone who is a hardcore anti-commie. There is also reported major investment in the US by the EU of $600 billion. Details are lacking there, however. Part of the timing here is not an accident, as the August 1 Trump-imposed deadline to make a tariff deal is now up. On the heels of this, South Korea came to the table. The deal means South Korean imports will pay a 15% tariff rate. South Korea will also invest $350 billion in the United States and purchase $100 billion in U.S. energy products. On the flip side, Brazil may face a 50% tariff. The problem here is that it's a country where the U.S. has a trade surplus. The tariff is retaliating for Brazil's criminal prosecution of former President Jair Bolsonaro. Trump had threatened the tariffs earlier in a letter to President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. I believe this is inappropriate as this is internal legal business in that country. I note that both the countries of Colombia and Brazil, 2 major coffee producers, are in struggles with Trump. While inflation may be sort of tame, coffee prices are surging. Maybe we need Starbucks to get in there and talk to Trump. Trump has extended Mexico's time to make a deal by another 90 days. Not sure why he's doing that. Of course, it's an odd turn of events. Canada has not made a deal, and I think for Canada, this is a more serious error on their part than even with Mexico. Note that fentanyl smuggling is an issue with both of those countries, as well, of course, with China. All countries that have not made a tariff deal or being given an extension will be paying previously announced tariffs. China and the U.S. are under a truce in negotiations, so frankly, I'm not sure who's paying what right now with China and the U.S. As I've said before, I do want the U.S. and its allies to starve out China by doing all they can to stop buying anything from that repressive, murdering regime. That is how the first Cold War ended in favor of civilization, and likely will be the best way to end the current Cold War too. Despite what appears to be enormous progress with tariffs, one business and 11 Dem-controlled states have gone to federal court to challenge Trump's authority to impose these tariffs that we just talked about. Trump is using the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. His pitch is that America is in serious trouble and needs to correct the severe balance of payments with much of the world. He's also raised national security arguments. The Federal Circuit currently is reviewing this and unlikely at the moment to rule in Trump's favor. However, I can foresee this bumping up to SCOTUS and expect that he may do better with the High Court. I could also see a split decision where in many cases it will be upheld, but not upheld, say with Brazil, since we have a trade surplus there. I'll keep a watch on this for our loyal audience. This is Dr. David D. Schein. Thanks for joining me for this special edition of Saving America. Remember, a new Saving America show is aired on the Brushwood Media Network every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Listen on any of the 16 network stations, Apple or Google mobile app, Apple CarPlay, TuneIn, Smart Speaker, and all smart TVs. Find more information at the brushwoodmedianetwork.com. Please be sure to join us each week. We welcome and love your feedback from our growing audience.